الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر.
How exactly will we come to realize the true value of Arabic? Since you have already joined the madrasa specifically to learn it, you clearly value it. Just focus on your work. Don't overthink exactly how it will all happen. Whatever specific rules have been established for speaking Arabic, simply follow them diligently. After the English language, Arabic is truly considered a major global language. It is definitely not a minor language at all. By saying after English, I simply mean to imply that while English is widely recognized as a primary global language, there are nuances to consider. There are indeed other languages larger than English in numbers, but some languages are so widespread across the entire world that they act as a vital bridge connecting people from many different walks of life together. Among those prominent languages, English ranks first, followed closely by Arabic, and Urdu is significant as well. You will find that Hindi and Urdu are essentially similar worldwide, but unfortunately Urdu speakers have been quite unfair to their own tongue. I have personally visited Europe and seen how things work there, where very small languages exist with only a few speakers, yet those countries still conduct their education and everything else exclusively in their own native mother tongues. But we have such a massive language, considering Urdu and Hindi together, it is incredibly huge, spanning across many different regions and diverse populations. In terms of population, look at India and Pakistan. Combined, they surpass China, and Urdu is widely understood in Bangladesh too. It is understood in many regions. Urdu has such a vast scale, yet look at the stepmotherly treatment it faces. It is being slowly and gradually phased out of existence. Unfortunately, this is exactly what happens to a colonized nation, and it represents nothing but pure mental slavery. Those who are enslaved can truly never escape from a colonial mindset. Meanwhile, in Europe, there are such tiny languages spoken by incredibly small populations of people there. But they stick to their own languages. Even their scientists are nurtured within those very languages. Our city Karachi is a whole world in itself, brother. Just look at the massive populations in Punjab, KPK, Balochistan, and then across the border in India's Delhi and UP. All of them understand Urdu perfectly. Hindi and Urdu are essentially the same thing. First, you must clear this absolute nonsense from your mind that Hindi and Urdu are two separate languages. Politicians were the ones who created this divide, because Hindus believe Urdu is the language of Muslims, and promoting it would bring honor to the Muslim community. And Muslims think that since Hindi is the Hindus' language, they should not promote it at all. Both sides are being absolute top-tier fools in this matter. Do you honestly understand everything that I am saying to you right now? Although Hindi is also Urdu, and what is Urdu? It is also Hindi. By moving a few words here and there, essentially the identity of a language is determined by its grammar. The grammar is the same. What is the grammar? It is identical for both languages. So it is through the grammar that we know if it is one language or separate languages. Grammar is like what is this? In Hindi too, it's what is this? In Urdu too, it's what is this? So as for the technical terms, the original language that was Hindi actually contained Arabic and Persian. They removed the Arabic and Persian words. They have started inserting words from other languages instead. Thus, I felt very sorry. There are many Hindu doctors whose medical research is exceptionally good and highly respected in the field. It is very good and strictly to the point. In his public speech, he said, "I welcome you." But then he immediately remarked to the audience, "Oh, I see that I have used an Urdu word." Since he had only heard Khair Makdam in his childhood, he then replaced it with a Hindi word, adopting an apologetic tone for letting it slip out. Man, what a grave injustice. Such a lovely word came from your tongue, yet you feel you must bring in a different word that most people do not even understand. It's a slave mindset, since Hindus were enslaved and we have been too. So, such slave-like behavior suits the enslaved people, doesn't it? They can never truly move past these trivial things, such as worrying if someone said a simple word like welcome. So because it is Khushamdeed, why is it a problem, brother? The English words you are using, are those your own words? If only India and Pakistan could live with love for one another. We should promote trade and reach a compromise on languages. If they call it Hindi and we call it Urdu, it is still the same thing, and it would truly be so wonderful for both sides to agree together on this. And I will tell you something very strange. I once went to Muscat in Saudi Arabia, and there I saw quite a few local people who were actually speaking fluently in Urdu. I asked them exactly where did you learn to speak Urdu, and they said they learned from watching Hindi films. They watched Indian movies, so they learned Urdu. And I asked, you learned just by watching Indian movies and nothing else? You should have learned Hindi. Why did you learn Urdu? They said the language you speak is the same one in the movies, so whether you call it Hindi or Urdu, we learned what you speak. This means that even in their movies, it is actually Urdu. I don't think you quite got my point. What they call Hindi over there and what is in our movies as Hindi, What exactly do we call it here? We call it Urdu. So we should stop this drama. These issues belong to Modi and our politicians. Don't sacrifice yourselves for the sake of these politicians. You should never talk about the enmity between India and Pakistan. It is currently ruining both of these nations. Someone had actually left a specific comment below my video. I had also mentioned somewhere that India and Pakistan should stop fighting, forgive the fights, clear the slate. This is what should be done. Both countries, both will benefit from friendship, both will progress so much if there is a genuine reconciliation between them. It is truly beyond your imagination. However, the international powers don't want to see this allow for peace. Israel stands behind India and will never allow friendship with Pakistan. Then our own politics interfere. But if both countries extend a hand of friendship and promote trade, saying your language is Hindi, but it is really Urdu too. In India, it is simply called Hindi by the general public. And what is it called here? It's called Urdu. It's the same thing, friend. Just compromise. You call it Urdu, they call it Hindi. But if both promote this language together, then we will benefit greatly. So if they reach this compromise, wouldn't it be wonderful? Modi Sahab needs votes. So until there are aggressive speeches made against Muslims, he won't be satisfied. Modi won't get votes. Because they know the public is foolish and will vote for divisive talk. People don't vote for messages of love. Although Hindus are also losing out. The lack of trade is ruining both countries. Just look at the massive defense spending of both nations. Every other day they build new missiles and issue threats to each other constantly. So both are being ruined by this. Both economies are being destroyed. Now I stated this somewhere and a Hindu commented below asking why the need for a separate country or the two-nation theory. It is just mischief. Brother, the two-nation theory meant that since we are practicing Muslims, we required an Islamic state to live according to our faith. So those who specifically wanted an Islamic state could come here, and those wanting a secular state could stay there. Is it really impossible for one to be an Islamic state and for both sides to live in peace, and the other a secular state, and for both nations to have good relations? Islam here, secularism there. What is wrong with that arrangement? What does it have to do with fighting and constant enmity between the two peoples? In many different types of trade, both nations have deeply shared interests, right? Now, if a Hindu person comes to your shop to buy something, you will surely sell it to him, man, as that is how business and commerce work normally. And if Muslims go to a Hindu shop, he'll sell saying, brother, trade must be done with everyone. So many things are common to both. They should unite on these commonalities. But it doesn't happen and it's very difficult. Politicians never, they know that the specific narrative that sells, the vote-catching narrative, always sells through conflict, not through friendship. It sells by making people fight. So they simply let it continue for their own gain. But this language is one protected, brother. Learn English. It's an international language and Arabic is part of our faith. We must learn it, but protect your own language too. Urdu is no ordinary language either. In the world, in Dubai, so many people know Urdu because every second person is Urdu speaking. And the most amazing thing about the whole situation is in Saudi Arabia, you will find signboards in Persian, but they are disappearing in Urdu. Even though Persian is limited, it cannot compete with Urdu. Our rulers haven't made even a small effort, even a tiny effort to ask the Saudi government, you've put signs in English and Persian everywhere, so man, include Urdu too. Only old Urdu signs exist. New ones aren't really appearing much anymore because Urdu speakers perform Hajj and Umrah the most, whether from India or Pakistan. Why? The people performing Hajj and Umrah the most, in their language, you simply won't find any signboards there anymore. You might see signs for tiny minor languages, but our rulers haven't done anything. They haven't raised a voice to do something for their nation or language. They go abroad and they actually feel ashamed speaking Urdu. Look at the Chinese president. He will be sitting there saying ching pong in his own language. Even if the whole crowd faints from not understanding, a Japanese person comes and says chang ching chang. But I honestly don't know why our own people dread speaking Urdu so much. Brother, you should speak Urdu too. Someone will easily translate it for you if it is truly necessary. But then they will insist on speaking in broken English. But why do they do that? Look at Hazrat Mufti Taqi Sahib. He knows excellent English, perfect English, yet he chooses to speak Urdu. What does he give sermons in? Urdu. What does he speak normally? Urdu. We had a friend, I told him, hey, I've cooked murgi at home, come over. He said, no, not murgi, call it chicken from now on. I said, people who have just started learning English always act like this. When they first learn English, they talk like this. We said, we are simple Desi people. Brother, we eat murgi, you can have the chicken, right? Even though I also know the word chicken, so there is no harm in it, whether you call it chicken or call it murgi. But if someone happens to say murgi and you tell them to say chicken, not murgi, that is the peak of a slave mentality. I am not saying those who say chicken are wrong at all. For some, chicken comes easier to the tongue. They find it hard to say murgi. If chicken feels easier, then you should just say chicken. But if someone says murgi and then you tell them, man, this is a bad word. Well, like I said, when someone is learning something brand new, that is exactly how they act, right? It is just a phase of learning. This slave mentality is so incredibly deep. So how will this nation ever progress? A nation that cannot protect such a vast language, or even show basic love for its own tongue, or even worry about its preservation. Half of one's life is spent just learning English. What will they actually study after that?